Hello, friends. This is your weekly reminder to check out Jeff's podcasts at jeffsawesomepods.com. Jeff hosts a few different podcasts ranging from RPG to discussion, and I'm sure that you will find something that tickles your fancy. From his discussion show Foolish Wits to the RPG show Shattered Worlds, there's a little bit of something for everybody. And don't forget, if you do go check him out, let him know that you heard about him from us.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2. The co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros. HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from 2000. Call them with your requests, I guess. This time we are covering chapters 10 and 11, Davos and Jaime. In these chapters, I forgot that this is what happens to Davos when he comes back. I was genuinely like, ooh, he wants to kill her so bad. And I know that's like not how this goes, but I can't. And then they just put him off into jail. And I was like, right. And Jaime is starting to realize that maybe Brienne isn't the idiot that he keeps sort of hoping she is.
Yeah.
Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, Davos gets imprisoned on the show.
He does.
I had completely forgot it was like this. Do you remember if does he like actually make a try at her, or is it like this before? I
forgot that he ends up in the dungeons, and I can't remember how he ends up there. What I remember is that Shireen spends time reading to him and trying to teach him to read while he's in the dungeon on the show.
Right.
And that's all I can remember.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, good. Glad I am not the only one. So Davos's chapter, actually, this is one of the few times that I'm going to say that Roy Dotrice does a pretty great voice.
Oh, okay.
The voice he does for Salladhor San is really fun. I really enjoyed it. It's because he does a fucking pirate voice for practically everybody. So when it actually is a pirate, and he has like a tiny bit of like almost a French accent in with it, it's wild. I like it. But yeah, this whole bit is mostly him hanging out with Salladhor San and Salladhor trying to convince him not to do this shit.
Yeah. Which he doesn't even get a chance to do anything. He gets fucking locked up on site. And we find out that it is because word has already gotten out that he has intentions, which is stunning that news makes it to them on his walk.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take any time whatsoever.
Yeah, what do you think about that? How did they find out?
I don't know. I mean, like, Salladhor tells us that he needs to be careful speaking this way, and that, there's people listening everywhere, and you don't know who to trust. So, I mean, maybe there's somebody that was nearabouts that happens to also be a follower of Roller. If you say so. And
he's a holy roller.
I mean, why not? It's like R''HOLLOR. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate when, look, I've done this, but it's such a thing in fantasy to just like throw a fucking apostrophe in the middle of a word. I just find that so funny.
It's also a thing in the black community.
Is it?
Girl, my name is RO'Shawn.
Oh, I forgot. And you just don't write it that way because it's been a pain.
Yeah, I just don't write it that way anymore. I mean, but I used to be really, really militant about it. Like, I used to, you got to fix that. But then, like, I got older and I was just like, it's fine. Like, I just got worn down.
Oh man, that's sad though.
I'm like still pretty. When I first got on Facebook, I don't use it on Facebook either. And I think when I first got on Facebook, I didn't even capitalize the S because I just wasn't thinking. And I think one of the things is, and this probably won't make a lot of sense, but I can only say this is how it was for me because of my age. You know, I'm that weird Gen X part of the generation where I grew up with computers, but also am not like, say, millennials or younger, where I'm like have always been on the internet, you know?
Right.
So there was a time when writing my name with the apostrophe, even though it is available on the keyboard, seemed like a real burden, you know? And, like, suddenly, like when I was a little kid, all my report cards had my name printed that way. And then at some point, maybe high school, everything was sort of went digital. Mm-hmm. And suddenly none of my transcripts had it anymore. And I just kind of was like, oh, I guess we're not doing apostrophes anymore. It's a really weird thing. But, yeah, like, if I don't have them anymore, but, you know, like if you look at my old report cards from elementary school, you know, my name is printed the way it's supposed to be, fucking the way it is. And then somewhere around maybe like 8th grade, I started noticing like my report card and shit was just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
I wonder if it is just like, because you know how things will just not accept that there's like a space or like I have problems because I don't have a middle name. And if they demand a middle initial and I don't have one, sometimes I get stuck.
Yeah. And I think maybe early on there wasn't, like, it just wasn't accepting that kind of shit in the name field.
Right.
And I just got accustomed to being like, well, I guess when I'm doing anything online or using a computer for anything, I just instinctively drop the apostrophe.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But I know it's not a thing anymore because, to circle back, Black people like to sprinkle apostrophes all over the place. And I work with lots of people who have them in their names, and it's in their email address. So I know, like, I could insist that it be included.
Email. Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, like, I won't name anybody I work with, but there's a lot of people, a lot of women I work with who have apostrophes in their name, and it's in there. So
I remember actively just throwing apostrophes in wherever when I was like young and writing like my starter fantasy fiction. And I just wanted to make a place sound like foreign, you know? So I would just, and that was the thing when I was, I covered, what do you call it, with the boys from Overdue, Aragon. And it definitely feels like, you know, he wrote those when he was like 15. And there's a lot of apostrophes just smattered around. And I'm like, I know what you were doing. I know the vibe. I remember.
So maybe, I mean, clearly somebody heard something. And, you know, she has followers and people of her faith. They could be, you know, anywhere. Mm-hmm. So somebody heard him talking reckless.
Yeah, that is really frightening because, like, at the Red Keep, it's just, you know, there's servants all over the place. There are clearly, like, secret passages in and out of areas. It makes some sense that folks would be listening in, but when you're just, like, on this ship, it feels like there shouldn't be as many places to hide. It shouldn't be as easy to do.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, we know that people brought him, you know, refreshment and whatnot. But while he was talking to Salladhor, it felt like they had privacy. They were in, like, his main cabin, I think, which was pretty luxurious, by the way. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a safe space. But his reaction, Salladhor's reaction to constantly be like, yeah, no, you don't want to talk about that, says to me he knows it's not as safe as it seems.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, Davos, he is determined. He's got nothing but vengeance on the brain.
Yo.
He has decided that this is like a holy mission for him at this point. Basically, you know, he needs to kill her as a penance. And the mother has kind of instructed him that this is what he must do. So, yeah, he's a little bit on like kind of a, you know, a crusade, if you will.
Yeah, crusade is a good way to say that. And yeah, he is like not afraid. Who knows it? And I think he expected more support from Salladhor than he was. I think he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Salladhor has clearly been frightened by some things he has seen.
He doesn't want any smoke whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I mean that both in the like colloquial way and also the fact that this bitch just likes to burn people.
She literally will get you.
What does he say when he's like on the ship and they're heading towards Dragon Mountain and there's like fire or smoke billowing up from the mountain and Davos is like, that bitch is burning someone right now. Which isn't funny because we find out that she has been doing a lot of that while they were away.
Yeah.
But that's exactly where his mind goes. Like it's the first thing he thinks is, she burning somebody.
He says she has broken him as a man breaks a horse. She would ride him to power if she could.
Yeah.
And for that, she gave my sons to the fire. I will cut the living heart from her breast and see how it burns.
Yeah. If she has one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I don't want to like get too, you know, stuck in what did or didn't happen on the show, but like what I do remember is Davos's deep distrust of Melisandre throughout the show. But I don't remember an actual plot to kill her.
Okay.
I remember a lot of, you know, you can't trust her. This woman is evil. We don't know where she gets her powers from. You are aligning yourself with something you don't understand. I remember a lot of that. But whether or not he actually makes an attempt on her life, I can't remember if that happens on the show. So I have no idea if that's going to be a thing we get in and even if it did or didn't happen on the show, we could still get it in the books.
Right.
But my point is, I don't even know to expect it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
I like the detail, too, that after he gets picked up and the captain of the ship that saved him finds out who he is, he's like, oh, shit. Yeah, no, take my room. And do you want some of this, like, really good food? And poor Davos, who has not eaten in a while, goes too hard on some of this.
That turns out to be a really bad idea for him.
Bad idea.
And also, this is so not important, but whenever, like, small details that I generally don't stop to consider are made plain, I'm always like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And the fact that he is just shitting on off the side of the boat, I was just like, oh, is that what we are doing?
That's how it would work.
No. And for some reason, not just for some reason, for very good reasons, I have never stopped to consider that, and I don't care for it at all.
I have read so much like fantasy where that has been a thing. It's like on big ships they will have a sort of almost like a privy door and just a hole, and it just goes into the water. But on smaller ships, which is most of them, you just climb up on a rail, up, like sometimes at the bow or the stern of the ship, and just go off the side of the ship. And so it's like in full plain view of everybody.
Yeah. No. And my brain, and this is like another really like how ridiculous our brains could be. My brain is like, but I have swam in the ocean.
I got some bad news.
It's so ridiculous, right?
Oh my God.
But I was just like, oh no, but I've been in the water.
Oh, that is amazing. So let's see. They're heading in, and he starts developing this cough, which is very concerning.
Yeah. He's like coughing up blood too, and this is no good. And he is being very sort of cavalier about it. But Salladhor is just like, oh, no, that sounds terrible. We need to get you fixed up. You're a mess. Look at when he shows up. He's like, that can't be. That's not my Davos. Not looking like that.
Oh, the whole way that Salladhor greets him and is like, "Spirit, why do you torment me?" It's like this whole thing initially. It's really fun.
It really is. It's just like, it's taking the, like, I haven't seen you in so long and I thought you were dead bit, you know, and really turning it into, like, high comedy.
Yeah. And he has, like, Salladhor hugs him and is like, "You are burning up, dude." Like, what is happening? But yeah, so he is heading in, and when on the way in, the captain tells him about the whole thing with, like, Renly's shade.
Yeah. He said, because Davos wants to know, just, you know, like kind of like, have you heard any news of this and that? He wants to know about, like, what other ships maybe made it, and and this Captain Corain tells him about how the night ended.
Yeah,
and then includes the bit about how the Lannisters flanked him, and that people thought they saw King Renly's ghost out there fighting. And,
I like that he's just like, huh, maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
he just goes Renly's shade.
Yeah.
And then just moves right on to thinking about, like, the first thing he thinks is, I wonder if I'll see my sons again.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, this he is not fazed by the idea that ghosts could be a real thing. Like, it is not a deal breaker for him.
Reminds me of in Harry Potter when he loses Sirius and then he goes to the ghosts and tries to, like, find out if he can see Sirius again. And I think it's Nearly Headless Nick is just like, yeah, this always happens when somebody loses someone, is they come and talk to us about it. But I'm sorry, that's not how it works, really.
Yeah.
But
it's funny, do we even get it, like, a good explanation in Harry Potter about why that isn't how it works?
I think he says something about how, like, we're stuck here because we choose to be here, and you, like, most people don't choose to do that. Just essentially, like, do you think that it is likely that he would have made the choice to hang around? Does that sound like him? You know, that kind of thing. But I don't fully remember how that goes.
Right. Yeah, because the more I think about that idea, I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't he choose to stay there? But okay, that's a different thing. And Davos also wants to know, like, about the men that were fighting when he hears how many people just fucking bounce. He's like, did anybody fucking stay? Like, did anybody keep the faith? And we find out that there were a few Florents mostly who stuck around. And that also Florent is a king's hand now. Lord Florent is the king's hand. And yeah, there have been some changes. That defeat kind
under
of
new management.
Yeah, sent him back with his tail between his legs. And all Davos wants to do is get back to Dragonstone so that he can talk to Stannis, like, in person. And the rest of this feels like it's just something in the way that's keeping him from that objective. You know?
Yeah.
All of this feels kind of like a side quest. Like, he's not really here for any of this.
Yeah. That's a good way to say that. Yeah, and he, like, demands to see the king, and they're like, we don't do that here.
Yeah, ain't nobody seeing the king except her. And you're just like, oh.
And, yeah, my Onion Knight was never so thin or pale as you. You are still warm, and I feel your heart thumpity-thumping. Can it be true? The sea that swallowed you has spit you up again. And this is interesting. He thinks about Patchface and the fact that Patchface, like, you know, changed after he had almost drowned, and starts to be like, I'm out here, like, on a mission from the gods all of a sudden. Am I losing my shit? Is that what's happening? Which I do appreciate that presence of mind and self-awareness. Like, you gotta ask yourself some tough questions.
Yeah, like, he asked himself the tough questions, but didn't seem very comfortable with the answers. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Am I out of touch? No, it's just the children who are wrong.
So, Salladhor has them go and kind of get comfortable, have something to eat, wisely just cheese and olives this time, because he is not an idiot and he realizes that the state that Davos is in, we need to keep it cute.
Which cheese and olives still seem like a real fucking gamble to me, but I don't know what they've got in the way of, like, gentle foods.
I feel like the salt in the olives would be good for you. But maybe not. Maybe that's just because I like I like olives and I like
He's
salt.
Been, like, so dehydrated and soaking in salt
Yeah,
water.
salt probably isn't very good for him, huh? I just love olives, you guys. I just love olives and want
there goes the
everybody
food
to
that
have
I
them.
want to like.
You don't like them? Mm-mm. Oh, I could eat a jar of olives if somebody just left one in front of me.
It was so funny because Paul F. Tompkins tweeted, like, the exact way that I feel about olives a couple months ago and was like, everybody seems to really like them. They're in so many things. I want to like them. And I can't like them. I've tried so many times. I'm like, yes! I have also done this, but yeah, they're in so much, and they seem to, like, be seen as something that elevates certain dishes.
What are they in that they're in so much? I don't ever just run across a dish with olives in it. Of course, I eat like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're not like a foodie out in the foodie world.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not. You're right. Ugh. You and I are very different people.
You just said ugh to the whole concept. Oh, man, I feel like I should be insulted. Maybe I am a little.
I didn't mean to. I'm not sure why I had that reaction.
Oh, my God.
It just came out before I could, like, stop it. I'm sorry.
It's so funny, though, because, like, you might not want to put the effort in, but I have had you over and done foodie things, and you are very into it when they're done for you. It's just that you don't want to be the one doing the work for it.
I don't want to do the work for it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm here for the eating of it. Almost always. But that's what she said. But that is the extent of my relationship with food. I don't have any desire to, like, get to know it better or know it as an individual, find out what its dreams and hopes are. I'm like, I just want to smash and run. I'm like a fuckboy when it comes to food.
Oh my God!
You're not trying to build a healthy relationship.
Hit it and quit it.
Oh God. So we find out too that, like, because when they roll up, Salladhor is, like, counting, cargo, and seeing what's in there, and we find out that this is stuff that belongs to Illyrio, who is our Illyrio.
He is indeed,
right? And Salladhor has commandeered his ship and all of his goods.
Yeah, evidently.
And we find out that he has been... This is so funny. I don't know if this is supposed to be funny, but I really laugh because he has been knighted. And so now he's just like, I can't abide by fucking smugglers coming through my shit without my permission. That makes you a criminal, and I can take your shit. Weren't you a smuggler last week?
Yeah, all of a sudden he's like, ooh, I can use, like, the law to do the same shit I used to do illegally. This is the best.
He's crossing my... What does he say? No vessel can cross my lordly waters without my lordly leave. And this is, like, I know it's like funny, it's for fun, and also I think that we are supposed to understand that he knows what he's doing. He's he's being kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, yeah, I'm flipping this to my advantage because that's what I do. I'm a hustler and I always flip shit to my advantage. Mm-hmm. But it is also funny because so often when a person is elevated into another sort of class, a lot of times they will completely disavow, like, however they used to live.
Oh, yeah.
What they got, whatever their values were, everything, their friends, to fit into this new strata that they've entered. And it's such a common thing that for a second, I was just like, see, this is why you can't just go around knighting people, because then they forget where they come from. But yeah, I enjoyed all of this. He asked about his bones too, his finger bones.
Yeah, he notices that they're not there. Davos is like, yeah, I've lost my luck.
Yeah.
And the river was terrible. Even from the bay, I was seeing and shuddering. Did none of our ships escape the fire? Lord Stefan, Ragged Jenna, Swift Sword, Laughing Lord, and some others were upstream of the pyromancers pissing. Yes, they did not burn, but with the chain raised, neither could they be flying. Some few were surrendering. Most rode far up the black water away from the battling, and then were sunk by their crews so they would not be falling into Lannister hands, which I was like, that is cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And he asks about the ships his sons were on, and Salladhor says, no, I'm really sorry. But Devon made it, and he is, he never left the king's side. He was very brave, and he's still around. And Davos is super relieved that at least one of them made it out.
Yeah, yeah. And he says, like, I have to see him, Mm-hmm. I have to go to him. And Salladhor is just like, and I know you're going to want to see your wife and your other children. You're going to need a new ship. And Davos is like, oh, well, Sandals will give me a ship. And he is like, yeah, no. But I have
where they do that at? What ships? Where they at though?
Right. And it's this moment too is kind of revealing that, like, because Davos is not unintelligent. Mm-hmm. He saw with his own eyes how the Battle of the Blackwater went down. He has heard which ships maybe got away. Mm-hmm. He has to understand what a tremendous loss this was in resources and men and ships and what Stannis' name means out in the streets, Mm-hmm. And Davos is still just like, oh, yeah, no, he's going to give me a ship. He got a ship for me. It's fine.
Yeah, yep.
It's like a real moment of sort of like dissonance. Like you seem like you are aware of the reality of your situation and of the entire situation, and yet somehow you remain divorced from it.
It reminds me of, like, my attitude when we first went into the pandemic and all of this shit was shutting down. And I was just like, well, I'm glad I work from home. Doesn't really affect me too much. No toilet paper. Wait, I did not agree to this. How did this happen? And I was suddenly, like, realizing, like, oh, no, I may not be in, like, the workforce in the way that a lot of people are, but this is not just not going to touch me at all. Like, that's not how any of that works. And there's no meat in these meat coolers. They're empty. What the fuck? And, yeah, he says, you will be finding him changed, I am fearing. Since the battle, he sees no one, but broods in his stone drum. Queen Selyse keeps court for him with her uncle, the Lord Alistair, who is naming himself the Hand. The king's seal she has given to this uncle, to fix the letters he writes even to my pretty parchment. But it is a little kingdom they are ruling, poor and rocky, yes. There is no gold, not even a little bit to pay faithful Salladhor San what is owed him, and only those knights that we took off at the end, and no ships but my little brave few.
Yeah, it's not good.
Nope.
The situation here is not great at all. And Salladhor offers Davos a ship and kind of a job. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, there's nothing for you to go back to. That dream is dead. That king might as well be dead. Mm-hmm. Come work for me. We will be fine. But Davos remains loyal on, it looks like. Mm-hmm. Also, he can't be moved from his idea that he needs to go and kill Melisandre, which I think is the main thing that's happening here.
Yeah. And he's, like, very fixated on the fact that legally Stannis should have the throne. That is the way it should work, and he cannot abide the fact that this guy is getting ripped off.
Yeah. Yeah. There is which, it's interesting to me when you think about that, because we know that is in line with Stannis. We know that is what his whole claim is, and that Stannis believes that 100%. And it makes sense to us that he would be so invested in the rightfulness of him being the king for Stannis. Davos, on the other hand, yeah, okay, it's the right thing. Stannis is the rightful heir. However, why are you still so invested in seeing this right thing be done? Is it just because you are, tied to what is right in a way that you can't be released from all this?
I think it's just like, well, personally, this is just like my guess, is that Davos really does respect Stannis in a way that, like, I think you and I just don't get, because he seems like such a mess.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, one of the other things I'm curious about, and it's still really early in this book, but Davos has, is holding Melisandre completely responsible for everything, including Stannis's sort of, like, demise.
Right.
His poor decisions, everything is about how she has this power over Stannis, and he doesn't really seem to hold Stannis responsible for anything. Mm-hmm. And so to the point where it's like Stannis is a victim of Melisandre, right? Mm-hmm, so he's not accountable to anything.
Yeah.
And if that is what you believe, then it's curious to me that it doesn't impact the amount of respect he seems to have for Stannis. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's curious to me that he still has a tremendous amount of respect for Stannis without respecting anything that Stannis is actually doing.
Yeah.
And, like, how, though? How?
I think it's supposed to be, like, what he thinks earlier is that Stannis made the smart choice in leaving her behind and not bringing her to the battle, because Davos agrees that people would have seen the victory as hers rather than Stannis's, and she vengefully punished him. For doing it, right? So
yes,
yeah.
So this failure at the Blackwater is also Melisandre's fault, even though she wasn't even there. And it's weird because I feel like I'm defending her, and it's not that I am actively trying to defend her. But it is and this is something I think a lot of us we do, where when it's our fave, we try to find every way to not make them culpable.
100%.
So it's got a lot of that sort of feel to it. And it makes her the only person responsible for all of the bad things. So then if you get rid of this one person that's responsible for all the bad things, then all the bad things will stop, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Salladhor is like, here's all this and all these plans, about him killing Melisandre. And he's just like, I think that you are sick, and this is just clouding everything that you're saying right now. You have a fever. Let's just put you to bed.
Doing the whole, like, just sleep on it. Just sleep on it and see how you feel in the morning. And Davos is like, sleep on it. You just want me to, like, sort of lose my resolve? Is that what it is? And Salladhor's like, what?
Yeah. What, me? No. I was just, I'm just curious. Thought you were like, tired, and, right? Yeah. You look pale. You was out on that rock for a minute. But Davos is just like, what I really need to do is I need to get to the castle, so that's where I'm going to go. And Salladhor is like, yeah, the castle, your son, and that woman too. And Davos insists on leaving, and he is just like, go? What do you mean, go?
I love this. At first he says, go, what do you mean, go? And then later he's like, go, get the fuck out then.
Just
do
go.
Your stupid shit,
right? If
idiot.
you're gonna go, just go.
He's so mad.
But Davos tries to explain to him this vision that he had of the mother. And this, oh my God, he says, because Davos is just like, first of all, I should have died. That fucking ship had no business being where it was in order to see me. Like, it, that was, what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
And kind of says, or is sort of suggesting that the fact that they even found him to save him is almost proof that this mission that he's on is sort of just and needs to happen. And he's trying to explain this, and Salladhor is just like, it was just a fucking ill wind, dude. Like, it happens. It just drove the ship off course. And he tries to say, no, the mother spoke to me. Like, no, this is real. And he says, your mother is dead.
Oh my God, I love this.
Davos has to be like, no. Not my mother. The mother.
Poor Salladhor. He starts to realize just how far gone his friend is and is like, ooh, whoa, okay. This is taking a new shape now.
You're right. And yeah, he just kind of goes off. He tells Salladhor, that the mother spoke to him, that Davos says we, meaning like people like Stannis and his court and his supporters, that they called the fire, that they did this. They called the shadows, and he talks about having taken Melisandre to the cave to do the whole shadow baby thing, and clearly he's still carrying a lot of guilt about that. And he says, I watched her birth a horror, and then it tells us that he still sees it in his nightmares, and that she killed Crescent and Lord Renly and a brave man named Courtney Penrose. She killed my sons as well, and now it's time for someone to kill her. Salladhor is like, okay, yeah, somebody, but it doesn't have to be you. We could hire assassins for this shit. There are whole people who do this professionally.
Come back with me. We'll get a faceless man.
Right?
It'll be done, and you don't have to be fucking involved in this. Yeah, but he will not hear it.
Yeah, no.
And I love what Salladhor says. You are no true friend, I am thinking.
Oh
when
my
you are
God,
dead,
this is so good.
Who will be bringing your ashes and bones back to your lady wife and telling her that she has lost a husband and 4 sons? Only sad old Salladhor San. But so be it, brave Sir Knight. Go rushing to your grave. I will gather your bones in a sack and give them to the sons you leave behind to wear in little bags around their necks. Yeah. I was like, woo!
Very good. Very fucking good. Like, yeah. Needed to be said.
And Davos is like, well, I was gonna go, but I don't want to go when you're so mad at me. And he's like, fuck off!
So then he takes this walk up to the gates of Dragonstone, and it's fucking a long, lonely walk. He is noticing how different everything is, how empty it is. All the ships that had been there are gone. All the people that had been running around and children and all that gone.
All the animals they were keeping to feed everybody.
Yep. All the windows are shuttered and the doors are closed, and it's like a ghost town. And he finally gets to the gates, which are closed.
Indeed.
Knocks on it. Nobody fucking answers. He's out here kicking and screaming at the door. And finally somebody looks down to see who it is. And he announces himself, and they're like, are you drunk? Stop banging on our fucking door and go somewhere.
That was so are you drunk? I don't know why that got me so hard, but that really was funny to me.
It has are you high energy. Like, what?
And when he says who he is, guy is like, I doubt it. We know that guy's dead. Fucking stop. Go try your trick somewhere else.
Right.
And he has to be like, well, I know this guy. I know little Tom and John the Tulip and Crank and what guys? Did you know those guys? And all of a sudden the guy's like, wait a second, I do know Crank.
The list of names that he's dropping, and the answer is just like, nah, he's dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he dead too. All of them are dead. And finally, like you said, they're like, wait right there. And they leave, and then they come back and tell him to, like, go around to the side. And Davos is just like, fucking finally. Jesus Christ. And they come and get him, and then they end up taking him someplace he doesn't expect to go and tell him to wait there. It's like Aegon's garden or something. Mm-hmm. And Davos is still like, to Stannis, no, I'm here. Like, will he be seeing me? Like, what's going on? And the guard is like, how the fuck would I know any of that, dude? Just wait here for a second. And Davos is so confused about what is happening. And then the kids come out, and they're playing, like, tag or some kind of, like, game. And it's Patchface and Shireen that come running by.
Patchface with another creepy fucking little song.
Oh, my God. I can't with this shit. This fucking... Ting-a-ling, ting-a-ling, fool's blood, king's blood, blood on the maiden's thigh, but chains for the guests, chains for the bridegroom. Aye. Yeah, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. And then they come back, and, before the guard comes back, we get this kid, this Edric Storm kid.
Yeah.
So this is the kid, if I remember right. Stannis had tried to get him to be, like, brought to him as like, I don't know, like a ward or something.
Yeah.
And he wanted to, like, his thinking was that he could use this kid to prove what Robert's kids should look like.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. And let me see. Renly says no. Right? Does Renly say no to that, or does Stannis not tell Renly what he wanted to do? Like, he just says no on GP. I can't remember.
I can't remember if this dude was, like... Because the guy, Courtney Penrose, is the one who had custody of Edric Storm. And I can't remember if he was on Renly's side, or if it was just that he was like, I don't know what you're going to do with this kid. I am assigned to protect him, and you're just asking me to hand him over, and I doubt it.
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was what you're saying. Kind of like, he's in good hands. There's no reason for him to leave my house. I don't trust anybody's, like, plans and agendas, and I'm not really going to do that. Mm-hmm. But here we know that guy is dead. Because they just told us that. Like, he was one of the names that Salladhor mentioned.
Right.
But I guess we don't know exactly how this kid ended up back here. But here he is.
He was killed. Courtney Penrose was killed in another ritual that's the one that he participated in with Melisandre.
Oh, right. Those are the three people that she killed with that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. But still, though, how does he get to... Do we know how he ends up here?
I think it was just, like, understood that the only thing standing between him and getting in there and getting what he wanted was the master of the house. And once he's dead, there's nobody is going to, like, be able to do shit to him.
So going to snatch him up wasn't even a big deal once that guy is out of the way.
I think so, yeah.
So, yeah, this kid shows up, and Davos is looking at him, and we get a description of what the kid looks like. And I love the first thing he says, because he knocks Davos down. And he's like, you shouldn't be in my way when I'm running.
This cracked me up. God, what it must be like to live that kind of life.
Just get out of my way. It's not for me to look where the fuck I'm going. It's for you to get the fuck out of my way. Some people really live like that, y'all.
They do, though.
What must that be like?
I remember a woman talking about how she decided for one full day to not be the one to step out of the way on the street. Mm-hmm. And how many men just ran straight on into her because they assumed she was going to step aside, and she just didn't. She was like, let's see who decides to do it. And it was very startling to her to realize how they would be in her face and they would still not it would just never occur to them to be the one.
I read a thing about a black woman doing that, but she did it with white people. Ooh. She's just like, I'm just not getting out of the way. We'll see. And she had a very similar experience where she just was getting bumped into all day because white people would literally just be waiting for her to move, like men, like subconsciously, just assuming this person will get out of my way. Mm-hmm. And so she just all day just didn't. And same thing, just they just ran into her all fucking day long.
Yep. So this kid, and this makes me like immediately kind of go, what the fuck, dude? But then when he asks to see Davos's fingers, and the first thing he says is like, that's fucked up. He shouldn't have done that. What the fuck? And he's like, if I were in his position, I wouldn't have done that. And Davos is kind of like, yeah, you wouldn't. You're not like him, are you? You're like fucking Robert, man. This is kind of like freaking me out, actually.
Yeah, I love that when after he introduces himself, because he asks Davos who he is, and he introduces himself, and then he goes, he says, are you sure? Because you don't look very knightly. And then once Davos says, I'm the Knight of the Onions, the kid gets like almost excited. He's like, oh, the one with the black ship. Mm-hmm. And we find out that he says, you brought my Uncle Stannis fish to eat before I was born, but I'd heard the stories. And that's when we find out that the kid is Edric Storm. And when he says that, Davos is like, fuck, of course you are. Because look at your goddamn face. Mm-hmm. Of course that's who you are. Why? I knew that. I knew it as soon as I saw you, even though I didn't make the connection.
I really enjoy that. It's like kind of nice because it sort of lends credence to the plan that he had to use this kid as proof. Because it sounds like kind of a lame plan. It sounds like, is that going to do it? That's weak. Yeah. But the way this goes, it's sort of like maybe it would have worked, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of like an extension of like Ned Stark's plan, right? The sort of like when you see what a kid that Robert Baratheon makes looks like, there is no mistaking it, right? Like there's just none. There's no mistake. And this is very much in that vein. It just it keeps not working out because you keep not getting the kids that you need in front of the people that you need to see it. And then the better question is, once say you get them in front of the people that you think need to see it, do they acknowledge it or do they just continue to hand wave it because they're in the position of power? So it's not like the Lannisters would be like, oh yeah, you're right, look at that, you're right. we'll step down now, you're right. You got us beat, our hands are tied. What could we possibly do?
So this encounter, it ends, let's see, I'm trying to find the spot. Robert was a different man than Stannis, true enough. The boy is like him. And like Renly as well. That thought made him anxious, which I liked. The boy was about to say something more when they heard steps. And here comes Sir Axel Florent, and bless his boots, Davos is like, oh, great, I get to see the king now. And they're like,
yeah, no, you don't.
Definitely. Yeah. We'll set that right up for you.
And they ask him, like, how are you alive and not drowned? And he says, onions float.
I forgot about that
line. And the thing, too, like, this Edric Storm character did not make it to the show at all. But there was that plot. Remember the thing she did? Like, in the show, I don't remember what season it was, but somewhere in their travels, Melisandre runs into Arya and Gendry and is it Hot Pie?
Hot Pie.
The third person? And she ends up kind of kidnapping Gendry and taking him back and doing this weird ass spell with his blood. So they've got Baratheon there now. So there's no need to do that with Gendry, I guess. Right? Was that the show? Like, kind of, how the show did this thing where they would combine different storylines into one character for efficiency.
For sure.
So it feels like that Gendry was taking the place of that. So I'm worried. I don't know if it's true, but like the idea of Stannis having this kid there is proof of what the Baratheon line looks like is one thing. But also I'm like, well, shit, is she going to try to use him for her magic? Because now I'm worried. Maybe they shouldn't have this kid there. Maybe he's not safe. Even though it's not like they killed Gendry or anything, but still, they had him and wanted to use him for nefarious purposes. And nobody wants that for a kid.
Yeah, I just nobody wants that for a kid. It just feels so so mild. You're talking about like sacrificing him or using him as like a blood donor for a weird ritual, and you're just like, that feels like it's in poor taste. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't think that's a nice thing to do. So, and I do like too that this kid had also mentioned that he got given a warhammer by his father, and that like yet another thing to really hammer home. Oh God, I really did not mean to do that, but I am not sorry. But yeah, just to like an additional bit of circumstantial, granted, but evidence that you could use to be like, come on, man, come on. He had a fucking hammer. Come on.
He says that his father came to see him every year. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes they even train together. And he says, my father taught me to fight. So Robert acknowledged this kid.
Yeah.
In a way that normally, I guess, she wouldn't have asked. Well, no, I won't say normally, because Bruce Bolton has a bastard he acknowledges, and Ned Stark had one that he acknowledged. So it's, but my point is, it's a little bit different than what I guess I thought. I think I'm taking it again from the show. Like on the show, Robert had all these bastards, but they were all with like lowborn women, right? Do we know who Edric's mother is? Did they? Do I know that story?
They told us the story, but I don't remember at this point. I am gonna look it up actually because I'm curious.
I'm trying. When they talk about his description, let me see. Boy, looked it up.
I'm finding. Okay. Edric spends time... Oh, this is like actual history. Edric was conceived by King Robert and Delena on the wedding night of Lord Stannis in the couple's wedding bed. That's right.
Come on, Robert.
We talked about this, actually. I forgot.
Yeah, I remember now, too.
Stannis saw this as an insult to his honor, so he sent Edric to Storm's End to foster with the boy's other uncle, Renly. As Delena was a noblewoman, Edric was acknowledged by his father. He was raised in relative comfort at Storm's End under the guardianship of Sir Courtenay Penrose, Renly's castellan, who was fond of the boy. So Courtenay was on Renly's side.
Okay.
He was his castellan, and that was like the situation at that point was that Renly had Storm's End, because that was yet another thing that Stannis got cut out of that he actually had the right to.
Right. And this woman that he slept with, she's noble born. Is she like part of a family that we know?
She is a Florent.
So she's like, that was like Robert. That's like Stannis's in-law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he basically like fucked one of the bride's sisters at the wedding in their wedding bed.
Oh, that motherfucker was trifling.
He really was. I do enjoy that. Like, the more you find out about Robert's behavior, the more you're like, man, I am really surprised you managed to keep the friends you did, because you were kind of fucking insufferable, man.
Okay. So, all right. So, this kid is a Baratheon and a Florent. So, part of me wants to be like, he should be safe here. And maybe the thing from the show that Melisandre uses Gendry's blood for is not necessarily going to be what befalls him. Because Gendry is just, some poor bastard nobody cares about. But this kid is in a very different sort of social class,
Yeah.
So maybe that goes a little bit different. All right. Good to know.
It's also mentioned here, for those interested, I'm looking at a wiki of Ice and Fire for this, that the Sir Courtenay Penrose resists handing over... Good God.
You got dogs and I got this bullshit.
Sir Courtenay Penrose resists handing Edric over in fear of what Stannis would do to him. So it's sort of like kind of also what I said. He was on Renly's side, but also was like, I don't know what your plan is, and this feels suspicious, and I like this kid. I'm not doing that,
Yeah. Well, he did now. So,
All right.
So that's Davos's chapter. And take his dirk. He means to use it on Our Lady, is what Axel Florence says when he orders Davos into custody.
Fucking Axel, shut up.
So he has made it very clear, I guess, that he follows Melisandre as well. He is in league with their new god and new religion and all that.
Thick as thieves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then we go on to Jaime. And they have stumbled upon the Inn of the Kneeling Man. Sir Cleos tells them it stands upon the very spot where the last king in the north knelt before Aegon the Conqueror to offer his submission. And Jaime continues, Torrhen had brought his power south after the fall of the two kings in the Field of Fire, but when he saw Aegon's dragon and the size of his host, he chose the path of wisdom and bent his frozen knees. And he hears that there's a horse in the stable and is immediately like, okay, might be something I could do something with.
This could be it. This could be my chance, right? I just got to get fucking one horse and I'll be good. I'll be out of here. And he just sort of decides that we're going to go fucking see what's going on at this inn. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Brienne and Cleos are kind of like behind him, but he is just knocking on the door anyway.
Yep.
And a little, like a young boy, like a teenager, opens the door with a crossbow and is immediately like lion, fish, or wolf. Mm-hmm. Jaime. Fucking, we are, oh my god, you guys. Like,
we were thinking roast chicken.
Right? Like, sir.
Fish fillet.
All the time with this. All the time. Like, do you ever just turn it off?
I love so much this. He like says some bullshit about how like a crossbow is a coward's weapon, which I love that's like Joffrey's weapon of choice lately. But he says that the kid's like, if it's a coward's weapon, I don't give a shit. It'll still kill you. That's what I'm looking for. And he says, perhaps, but before you can wind it again, my cousin here will spill your entrails on the floor. And I love that Sir Cleos, he says, don't scare the lad. But really what I'm hearing is Cleos being like, I would what now? I didn't agree to that. Please keep your mouth shut about my actions and don't promise shit. I appreciate it. That just felt to me like a whole a moment of just really the two of them being such different people.
Very, very, like, just not on the same page at all. Oh my god, did you see that tweet thread that was going around? It was like, if you saw Jesus getting jumped in the street, what would you do? Oh my god.
No, I did not see this.
One of the comments was like, I thought he had 12 homies. Where they at? Somebody else said, I'm going to do what he did during slavery. Nothing. One girl said, I have to wait to see if this has anything to do with forgiving us for our sins, because I've been wilding out here.
Oh, that is very good.
I gotta find that. I'll send it to you. It was so good.
I love things like that, where there's just like something that the original post is kind of whatever, but then the comments that it spawns are just the gold, you know? That was recently, I'll have to send you the link to this, but there was a woman on TikTok who, she posted, stitch this with your answer. What is the like ickiest thing a guy has ever said to you in bed? And the fucking responses. I gotta read this to you because this cracked me up so bad. He came, then whispered, "Thank you. Here I go." Right before he came, but like quietly. He told me to say his name. His name was Doug. And then just a crying emoji. He stopped and farted, then kept going.
Oh, God, no.
My ex started laughing and said, sorry, I was thinking about Batman. He told me, you just came. Like, I don't even know what he meant. I definitely didn't. Was he manifesting? Can you handle it? I know it's a lot. Sir, I am completely fine. He stated how close he was to coming in percentages.
Jesus Christ, no.
He was super into it, but then said his mom's name.
Fuck, no.
Yeah.
No. No.
Yep.
That is a no.
And he was 3 fingers deep and said my mom would be so upset with what I'm doing right now. I got up and walked out.
People talking about their moms while they're getting ready to come.
This girl,
she did the right thing.
People
she
were
did
like,
the right thing.
Yeah, somebody replied to her, nothing else left to do. And people are like, why? And she says, I don't know, and I don't want to know. I blocked him as soon as I got home and told him I'm not a therapist as I walked out.
Holy shit. That is tragic.
My favorite one, though, he was on top. I closed my eyes, and he said, where are you going? And somebody replies, I'm dissociating, Steve. Oh my God, I love it so much.
Ah, that's good stuff.
It goes on so much longer, and they're all amazing. I cannot even. These guys don't understand that there are still stories told about them, and not in the good way.
Sex is already so weird.
It's so weird.
I don't know why we do these things to make it weirder. Like, what is wrong with us?
We have to go and fucking overcomplicate everything.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, that's again a different podcast. But you know, like if you're gonna engage, and if you have to engage in any type of conversation or speaking during sex, as far as I'm concerned, there are really only two types that are acceptable, and you need to talk about those ahead of time, and then that's it.
So
don't bring
that your mother put out for you this
girl.
morning.
I can't believe it's been 30 years, and that joke is so funny. But yeah, like if that's because you know what, when you don't have expectations and agreements around what is acceptable conversation in bed, you fuck around and get somebody who says this kind of shit to you. Mm-hmm. I cannot abide it.
One of them that was so like almost cute was this woman said that she said, whose pussy is this? Wanting him to be like, it's my pussy. And he just paused and went, yours?
Oh my God. See? This is what you can't just spring dirty talk on somebody. Not everybody is not always ready. You know what I'm saying? And you catch somebody really off guard, and this is what happens.
In another place, I saw a girl who tried to say you love my pussy, and the guy just yelled, I love Amanda's pussy! And he like said her name.
I'm telling you, you gotta practice that shit ahead of time. You gotta get your fucking script ready, cause not everybody can just go like off the dome. You know, not everybody can freestyle. Not everybody's a battle rapper. Some people gotta write that shit down first.
Oh God. Anyway, okay. So we gotta get back to this dude. Another guy comes to the door, and he's got a butcher's cleaver, and he's like, so what's your deal though? Yeah. And they're like, we have money and we could buy food. And he's like, all right, like we got food, but it's bad.
Yeah.
But you can buy it.
Jaime is calling Brienne the wench this whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to like grate on me a little bit. Like not only does he, like at first he was doing it and I was like, oh, this is just what he calls her in his head. But then he just starts saying it out loud.
Yep. And she corrects him every time, and he's just like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, dude,
he's being such a dick. And he is so the innkeeper, who we find out in short order, is not actually the innkeeper. He is just sort of the guy that's there now. Claims that the original innkeeper was already dead. I don't know if I believe him. I don't think I believe him, y'all.
That's
I don't
a fair
have
position.
I don't have any hard proof, but I have a real strong hunch. And he claims that he has a wife who we do not see.
Right.
And this kid that is not his son. It's a kid he says that him and his wife just sort of have taken in because he doesn't have anywhere else to go. Mm-hmm. And they've got food, like you said, it's not great. It's also horse meat.
Yeah.
Which I know I can't bring my, like, you know, modern sensibilities to this story. I also know it's not even the first time that they've been eating horse. I know people have been eating it throughout these books. But what I'm saying is it will never not be deeply upsetting to me.
I'm actually kind of curious about horse meat. If a place had horse meat, I'd probably be like, well, you order it and I'll taste it. I'm just curious about it.
I had a conversation once. I will never forget this. I had a conversation once when I was living with my grandmom in South Georgia, in rural Southwest Georgia. And we were talking about all the different kinds of foods that people eat. And we were talking about rabbit and talking about raccoons and all kinds of other types of animals that I don't think qualify as food that you should be eating. Right?
Okay.
Squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, and, you know, other type of vermin and roadkill and all that other shit. And horse meat came up. And I said something like, you know, I never would. That's disgusting. I don't know how people could eat that. And one of my cousins, but a much, much older relative, like my mom's generation, but a relative, but a cousin, looked at me with a dead straight face and said, you probably have already eaten it and you just don't even know. And that lives rent-free in my brain. I was like 12 when he said that to me.
Oh, I love it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know that my mom's side of the family, they were like the types that ate squirrels and possums and shit. Like, they, swamp Yankees, as my uncle called them. I have not eaten that many different animals. I've had some, like, you know, crocodile and, you know, like the stuff that you can get as a bit of a lark.
Yeah.
I haven't tried snake, for instance. My father had a lot of snake in Colombia, apparently. But there's a lot of like, I'm not anti-eating practically any meat. I figure if it's an animal and you're hungry, I don't really get to say anything. Like, go ahead,
Right.
But it's also like there's a part of me at this point that's like, well, I bet that animal, like a fucking raccoon, had a happier life than the fucking like cows and pigs I'm eating all the time. So maybe that's actually more
that's probably a fucking
moral,
fair point.
You know, that's like an ethical way to do this.
I had rabbit stew one time by accident.
Oh, I have had rabbit. Yeah.
I didn't know it was. I didn't know that's what it was, and it wasn't that it was terrible. But afterwards, when I found out what it was I was eating, I wasn't prepared. You know, I just wasn't emotionally ready
Aww.
to eat rabbit.
Yeah, and venison I've had, but that's not like
I've
unusual.
had that too. Yeah. I didn't really care for it because my palate is like, you know, chicken and beef. Anything that's like kind of gamey, you know, and just has a real strong flavor that I'm not accustomed to.
Yeah. I love goat too. Speaking of gamey.
Yeah.
I've, you know, the first time I ever had it, of course, was like in Jamaican food, and I was like, "What is this? I love it." And they were like, "Oh, that's goat." I was like, "All right, sign me up." I should have a goat farm. I love goat. It's like goat yogurt is so good. Goat cheese is amazing. I've never actually just had straight up goat's milk. I'll say that. But yeah, I could do with a whole series of goat.
This is really disturbing because all I can think about is that you had a goat in your wedding, and I'm just like, but you're talking about how delicious they are.
I am one of those people. I have no issue with the separation of I find this animal adorable, but yes, I would definitely kill and eat it. It's like absolutely not an issue for me, and I have no problem reconciling those two things in my head. Do I think it would be easy for me to kill the animal and it would like I know it would be very awful and I would be fucked up, but I would do it. I have no doubt I would do it. I feel like I could be pretty cold-blooded about that sort of thing. I mean, I worked on a goat farm too, you know.
That's true.
I have had
true.
a lot of experience with these animals, and I think that they'd be like, "Oh, well, all right.
We understand.
I was about to die in a couple months anyway. We don't live that long. Go ahead, it's fine."
Trying to like circle back, but. All right, so there's a lot of discussion about what kind of food they have, and it is not the best food, but it is what is available, and they decide that it's worth it. So they're going to have some old horse meat, they're going to have some hard bread, and some stale oat cakes, and they're going to fucking like it.
And I like that Jaime's like respectful of the fact this dude's like flat out saying, "Oh yeah, the bread's old, the oat cakes are dry, the meat's stringy and tough. 15 coppers."
That's what makes the guy admit that he's not an innkeeper. Because Jaime is just like, most of those guys are shady as fuck. What the hell? And he was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not an innkeep. I buried him out back.
Did you kill him? I don't know.
I mean, would I tell you if I did, though? Like, there's a lot of keeping it real happening right now.
Oh, I love it.
But, so he tells him a little story about, like, finding the inn and taking in the boy. And, they eat a little bit. Brienne has cider. She's going to keep her wits about her. Jaime and Cleos have, like, some ale. And they have a bit of, like, sharing the news of the day. Like, what's been going on, right? So, he asks where they are going. No, first the guy says, what's up with River Run? Like, what's going on there? And Cleos answers and just says some real basic shit. That Lord Hoster is very sick, but his sons are holding the fords, and there's been some battles. And then the guy wants to know, okay, well, where are you going? And again, Cleos answers and says, they're going to King's Landing. And this is when stuff starts to get kind of interesting.
Yeah. This dude is like, you're going where? Oh, that is not a great idea now. I would not advise it.
Yeah, I would do the complete opposite of what you have planned. And he tells them that word is that Stannis is outside the walls and he's got 100,000 men and a magic fucking sword. And Jaime is hearing this and is incensed, kind of. And he's just like, if I was fucking there, I'd show Stannis where he could put that magic sword. And Brienne is listening, but she's not doing a lot of talking yet.
Yeah.
And the innkeeper says, because Sir Cleos is the one who's been doing the talking, so the guy is kind of talking to him.
Right.
And says, because Cleos is just like, well, nobody would fuck with us. And the guy is like, I only see, like, you. I see a guy in change, and I see a woman.
Yeah.
Basically being like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, what do you mean? They would definitely fuck with you. And Jaime notices that Brienne has it says Brienne gave the cook a dark look. That's all it says. And then it's Jaime interpreting that to be, she doesn't even like to be reminded that she's a woman.
Which is an interesting thing. Later on, she says, like, I'm my father's only, and then says child. And he's like, you were about to say son. And I'm really curious about whether or not it's supposed to be that Brienne is trans, or Brienne is just, fucking sick of dealing with, like, gender roles. Because it could be either thing,
Yeah. I did that part you're talking about where it feels like she's about to say she's the only son. I wasn't sure what to do with that. This part here, I didn't read this moment as like the way Jaime does with just being reminded that she's a woman. It felt much more like she doesn't like being underestimated because she's a woman.
Right.
Right? But then the moment later when she almost says she's the only son, I honestly don't know what to do with that. I don't know what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah,
And
it's always tricky because when you're like in an era where the gender roles are so like strictly enforced, like in Little Women, Jo says a couple of times, "I should have been born a boy," and it's like these days you kind of think, was Jo like feeling like a boy trapped in a woman's body? Or was Jo just like, I am sick of having to deal with the bullshit women deal with?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It could mean either one, and be perfectly valid in either case. But
I wonder, like, for a split second, because the way my memory is so shitty, I was wondering, like, I can't remember what Brienne's relationship with her father actually is. And how much of that do we even know? Have I even heard anything really about what the relationship is like?
Right.
And for a second, I wondered if at some point Brienne had to engage in sort of, a lie where she had to say that she was a son in order to access certain spaces. And that when she almost slips and says, I'm his only son, that is less a mirror into something deeper and more of like a slip of a tongue based on a habit that she had developed. But I really have no idea if that's anything at all. You know what I mean? Like maybe as a little kid, she just had to pretend to be a boy to be trained places or just whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, I don't know if the books ever get into Brienne in that way to find out what that slip is about, Mm-hmm. I mean, the show, in my opinion, never went there.
Not at all, no.
So, yeah.
And we have the discussion about like the ways to go, and the guy is like, you're not going to be able to get down there in a boat because of all the fighting. There's a lot of things that have sunk and building up like all these obstacles in the way. There's a nest of outlaws there preying on anyone tries to come by, and more of the same downriver around the Skipping Stones and Red Deer Island. And the Lightning Lord's been seen in these parts as well. He crosses the river wherever he likes, riding this way and that way, never still. And he's talking about Lord Beric Dondarrion.
Yes, he is.
Here we go.
Yeah, and this is a name that Jaime knows. Mm-hmm. And, oh my God, his first thought when he's hearing, like, this Lightning Lord, he's just thinking, like, saying, like, the kid. They all die when you shove a sword through him. Like, he has the same exact reaction the kid has about the crossbow.
Yep.
But he asked about Thoros of Myr, and does he still ride with Beric? And this innkeeper knows exactly who that is, and is like, yeah, the Red Wizard. And we've heard he has these weird powers. And a lot of this Jaime chapter is, in his head. He's not saying everything that he thinks. Mm-hmm. And his memory of Thoros is basically that he could drink as much as Robert Baratheon, and there's, like, not very many who could say that.
Yeah.
But he does say... Oh, and he has this memory of Thoros saying something about he wore the red robes because it helped cover the wine stains. Mm-hmm. And Robert laughed so hard that he, like, spit all over Cersei's nice dress.
Yeah.
But then he says out loud that, okay, maybe the trident isn't our safest way to go. And then they talk a little bit more about this past Red Deer Island. And if they get past all that safe, they still have to deal with what he calls the Leech Lord's wolves.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
That's Ramsay Bolton's Northmen.
Oh, okay.
Because Ramsay's the Leech Lord, because he gets leeched all the time. Remember that?
Right. Okay.
So
whenever anybody talks about wolves, I get like, like, oh, they talk about Starks? Or they just talk about Northmen? Like, wait, what?
Yeah, everybody who's on the Lannister side is lions, and everybody on the Stark side is wolves.
And to that, Brienne says, or, like, maybe nobody's there. Mm-hmm. And, Jaime just keeps... Oh, now she's a big winch. And then they start talking about getting horses, and there are horses available. They are not in great shape, but there are 3 of them. There is a plow horse. There is an old white gelding who only has one eye you can see out of. And then there is another sort of like younger, but I guess it's called a Knight's Palfrey, dapple gray and spirited. And those are 3 horses they end up buying, despite this guy being like, they are absolutely not for sale.
Yeah. Classic sales tactic. Wow, maybe if you could convince me.
Right. So she ends up overpaying, it seems.
Right.
And Jaime is just like, well, this is nonsense. And this is proof that you're not very smart.
I love this moment when he says, he's robbing you blind, wench. Jaime said amiably. There's something about that being specified as amiably, where he's just like, all right, go ahead, but this is silly.
And I like that she never really acknowledges anything Jaime has to say except to correct him when he calls her wench. She's also not really engaging in a lot of chit-chat with this innkeeper. He offers things, and she's like, okay, show me. And then she'll be like, we need this and this. But, but she's not really giving him a lot of information either. And the guy is also trying to coax them into spending the night.
Right.
But it's going to cost more. But they're welcome to spend the night. And Sir Cleos is into it.
Cleos is just... he is not built for this travel in life.
Listen, it is not... most of us are not. I'm not.
Same.
But Brienne is like, no, we are going to leave tonight. And the innkeeper is kind of like, well, leaving on new horses that you don't know how to ride in the middle of the night, that's not very smart. And she's just like, you know what? It's going to be just fine.
I like the way you had her speak right there. Just like kind of condescending. Thank you, sweetie, but we'll be fine.
I like this too. The way this is like a subtle thing that's not really important to the story, but they keep referring to the guy in these different ways. So, one page, he's the host. Another page, he's the cook. This moment when Brienne is looking at him, she thinks, the man who wasn't an innkeep.
Right.
And it's just like a weird, and I feel like there's something to that. And I think that maybe when there's a sort of moment of feeling like you can't trust this guy, that's when he's the guy who's not what the fuck you thought he was. That's how he's framed.
Right.
And Jaime is, I think it's Jaime who is like, how am I supposed to ride with these chains? Or it might be the innkeeper who said that. I thought it was Jaime.
I thought it was too.
But, that's when she looks at the chain, and then it says the man who wasn't an innkeep rubbed his jaw. It says there's a smithy around the back.
And also Jaime makes particular point to mention how much horse shit there is. And it says that he looked at her after saying it to see if she caught his meaning. And what it turns out it is that he is certain there are more guys that work with this dude. And he isn't sure if she's picking up on that. And as we find out, she absolutely is, because she is very smart. And he needs to trust her more. Yeah. He
doesn't... well, okay. I'll wait for a second before we get to that. But yeah, Jaime is thinking while she's talking to this innkeeper guy, after she splits the chains, because Jaime is just like, you can take the wrist chains off, and again, she just straight up ignores him.
Yeah.
And the guy is telling her about, the road will split here, and if you go this way, you'll see the stone tower house, and blah, blah, blah. And he tells her, your best bet is to follow the woods to the east. And she's just like, yeah, okay, we will. You have my thanks. And Jaime's like, yeah, and he's got your gold, too. It's still kind of like you're saying, he is watching her, wanting to see if she's picking up on these clues, and getting more and more sort of sure that she's not.
Yeah. Yep.
You know? So then, yeah, they pack up and they leave. And we find out that she is not going to take any of this guy's advice at all. She's going to do the opposite of practically everything he suggested. Cleo's, it turns out, is the one who's not very smart in this group.
He really thinks this guy is just telling them what is at their best interests. And, he just wanted us to stay and be able to, like, you know, take off when it was safer for us. He wasn't planning on murdering us in our beds with his friends and taking all of our things.
Yeah. And finally, Jaime's just like, oh, okay. Maybe she is a little bit more clever than I gave her credit for. And then he says out loud, like, yeah, our host, the innkeep, he's got friends waiting down there for us, I bet.
Yeah.
And they're probably the ones who left the stable in that condition. And they agree that he's probably lying about the river as well, but that would be too risky to chance that. Because, you know, your options when you're on the river is very different than your options when you're on the horse, you know?
Right.
And he says to himself, you know, that she might be ugly, but she's not entirely stupid. And gives her, like, a grudging smile. Which, how fucking generous of you, sir.
I truly hate it. I hate him so much sometimes. Yeah. Jaime is such a fun POV to be in, but, man, he can be such a dickhead.
Yeah, like, if you're it's fun to be in his POV, but, like, I wouldn't want to be, like, actually in his fucking point of view. Like, I wouldn't want him looking at me, judging me all, you know, calling me names and shit. Nobody wants that.
Yep. So half the night passed before the wench allowed that it might be safe to stop. By then, all three of them were drooping in their saddles. They sheltered in a small grove of oak and ash beside a sluggish stream. That's really hard to say. Say sluggish stream.
I would rather not.
Say it.
I really would rather not.
Say
sluggish stream.
Ah, see, you did it way better than me. I resent this. So she says that she'll take first watch, and this is when Jaime starts asking her about siblings. And he mocks her, almost saying son. Wordless, she turned away from him, her knuckles tight on her sword hilt. What a wretched creature this one is. She reminded him of Tyrion in some queer way, though at first blush two people could scarcely be any more dissimilar. Perhaps it was the thought of his brother that made him say, I did not intend to give offense, Brienne, forgive me. Which is a very surprising moment of him just suddenly going, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just being a huge dick. And she comes back immediately and does not have any interest in this apology.
Nope.
And tells him that his crimes are past forgiving and calls him Kingslayer. And he says to her, why are you so salty? What did I ever do to you? I didn't even know you. And she basically is just cannot wrap her head around somebody that could break their vow in such a way.
Yeah.
You harmed others, which we know is not enough. That's not really the root of her distaste. It's those you were sworn to protect. And she tries to be like the weak and the innocent, and he gets right to the heart of the matter. He's like, you're talking about the fucking king. And it's this moment in between him speaking to her. It's this quick line. It says, it always came back to Aerys. And then he goes to sort of start to lecture her about she is not in any position to judge anything that he's done. And then says, has anyone ever told you that you're as tedious as you are ugly?
Yeah.
And then she really seems puzzled by his choice. It seems sincere to me. She genuinely does not understand how he could take the oath, put the cloak on, and then turn around and do this in her mind, unforgivable thing. And so it gives him an opportunity to sort of tell his story. He tries to tell her.
Yep. So we find out first about joining the Kingsguard because of it meaning that he would be with his sister and he would not have to marry.
Yeah. There was a marriage talk.
Yep.
There were whispers that Tywin was trying to set him up with Lysa, which, wow.
Right?
Wow. Oh, wow. Like, first of all, I can't think of a worse match.
Mm-hmm.
But then also just, like, imagine if that had come to pass.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? But, and we find that, of course, Tywin is planning to marry Cersei to someone very, very high in power, and Jaime is not sure whether it was, waiting for Prince Viserys to come of age, or maybe thinking Rhaegar's wife would die because apparently she is very sickly anyway.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when they find out that there's a marriage plan for Jaime, Cersei has this idea, and they both understand it. Their father would never agree to it, so they just sort of do it without his consent and put him in a position of not being able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Once
it's a really
done.
interesting thing, too, because Jaime doesn't agree to it right away. And we have the... sorry, guys, it's my caffeine alarm going off again. And Jaime has to be convinced, and he, meets her at this, illicit location, inn. She dresses like a common woman and just keeps waking him up to fuck him over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the morning, he's like, all right, fine, I'll do it.
Yep.
And I was like, well, there goes Cersei learning her lessons about how to manipulate men.
Because, when she first brings it up, he's like, but what about Casterly Rock and all my riches?
Mm-hmm.
And she basically is like, do you want that or do you want me? Putting him in this position to be like, you have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, takes him on this. He never stood a fucking chance.
No.
And then what ends up happening is he, she goes back. It doesn't say exactly what she does, but it just says a moon's turn later, a raven arrives that he's been chosen for the Kingsguard, and that he needs to show up and to take his vows. And it works in that it frees him from any marriage to anyone, but everything else in their plan has fallen apart.
Yeah. They wind up just sort of switching places.
Yeah. Tywin is so upset and so furious, he resigns, which they never considered that he would do.
Yep.
He resigns from being the Hand and then goes back home and takes Cersei with him. And that just leaves Jaime in King's Landing.
Yep. And he talks about how, all these hands come and go after his father leaves, but they are, it's such a treacherous job that all of them get executed, basically.
Yeah. He can't even remember them. He just remembers, some of their sigils, and that's, the best he can do. The Horn of Plenty hand, the Dancing Griffin's hand, the Mason Dagger hand.
And they were exiled, the Mason Dagger hand dipped in wildfire and burned alive. Lord Rossart had been the last. His sigil had been a burning torch, an unfortunate choice given the fate of his predecessor. But the alchemist had been elevated largely because he shared the king's passion for fire.
Yeah, and we find out that Jaime kills him as well, which I did not know. I don't remember if that made it to the show or not, but yeah. So he has been thinking about all of this in his head while Brienne has been waiting for an answer.
Yeah. I always find that fun when you get reminded that you're getting all this info, and meanwhile somebody's just sitting in silence, staring at them, waiting for them to fucking come back down to earth.
So he tells her that he starts to try to express to her that she just isn't old enough to really know what Aerys Targaryen was like. Mm-hmm. And she is just like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. Yeah, I know. He was mad and he was cruel and blah, 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 blah. But he was still the king, and you were sworn to protect him, and you still murdered him.
Yeah.
And he says to her, basically, well, what did you do? From what I can tell, we're both Kingslayers.
Yep. Which she's like, it was the shadow, it got cold, and he's like, ooh, good story. I wish I'd been that quick with some bullshit when they came in and found me. Oh, it was a shadow. It wasn't me.
And he says to her, like, who basically paid you to do it? Was it the Starks or did Stannis do it? And then says fucking something based like, oh, maybe you were just on your period and went crazy.
That killed me.
I did not know we were doing.
Give a wench a sword when she's bleeding.
I did not know we were doing that in these books.
Yep.
But I guess we are, so okay.
I mean, I guess that misogyny has always been.
Right?
Yep.
So she is getting, like, upset, but he is thinking that he can use this as an advantage, that he can catch her off guard, get her so, like, out of herself with these insults. But she does not do any of that.
He thinks, I'll snatch that dagger from her sheath and bury it up her womb.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! That is really rough, dude. Yep. Ouch. Don't like it.
He is, like, positioning his body so that he can jump the second he has an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't move a muscle.
Yep.
And she just tells him, basically, that you wasted a rare and precious gift. And it's a gift given to few, and you scorned it and soiled it. And he's thinking to himself, basically, that she's just jealous. You want what I had and can never have it. And, you know, starts to talk about everything he did to earn that title and ends it with, like, I don't know why you're so mad at me. It was the gods who didn't give you a dick. That wasn't me. It's not my fault. You don't have a dick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
When he closed his eyes, it was Aerys Targaryen he saw, pacing alone in his throne room, picking at his scabbed and bleeding hands. The fool was always cutting himself on the blades and barbs of the Iron Throne. Jaime had slipped in through the king's door, clad in his golden armor, sword in hand. The golden armor. Not the white, but no one ever remembers that. Yep. Would that I had taken off that damned cloak as well. I think that's really kind of interesting that he was like, same. I'm going to change before I do this.
Yep. He had an understanding of what, you know, not just the reality of what he was about to do, but also the optics of it all, you know? And that he was doing this in his mind as a Lannister, not as a, you know, Knight's Guard or whatever.
Right.
But you don't get to do that. You don't get to take off. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. You can take off the armor of one color, but that's not going to change how anybody sees this.
Yeah,
it doesn't change who you are. And, we find out, we get the sort of play-by-play of how this actually happened.
Yeah, he tells the king that he killed Rossert because the king sees his sword is bloodied and it's like, hi, you killed Tywin, your father, with no problem? Great.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I killed your hand. And the king shits himself.
Yeah.
And then
tries
runs
to run away. Yeah. But he runs for the throne, not like out the building or to another room to shut the door. He runs to the throne in what can only be just testament to how delusional he is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. Like, was he going to hide behind it like a toddler?
Maybe it's a TARDIS and he was just going to, like, hop in there and just take off.
Like, it has to be sort of this idea that the fact that I am king is going to protect me, and I am the most kingly when I am on the throne. So that's where I need to be. Like somehow seeing him sit on the throne would be enough to stop Jaime.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. It's just such a weird choice, but I guess, like, you know, for his state of mind, it makes sense. But yeah, I couldn't get over it. Ran for the throne. Like, bitch, what? Where is the door?
So he says, queer that they never ask who killed Rossert. But, of course, he was no one. Lowborn, hand for a fortnight. Just another mad fancy of the Mad King. And then a couple of knights come in and see him there, and he's like, yeah, there's no way for me to pretend that I didn't do this.
Yeah. Like it would have been nice. Like, he would have planned, like sort of, not that this was a well thought out plan, but clearly his intention was to like not be standing over the body when witnesses came in the room. But yeah, they get there faster than he was expecting, and there's nothing for him to do but stand there and be seen, in this moment. And this I thought was really was the people who walk in, these lords or knights or whomever, they see what has happened, right? There's like a dead king on the floor, and Jaime's there with a bloody sword.
Yep.
And they say to Jaime, the castle is ours, sir, and the city. So this is... At first, I was like, okay, that's what you say when you're taking over, and you are expecting, like, your opposition to still be there. It's kind of like a way of saying, like, put down your arms. We've won, right?
Oh, got you. Yeah.
But that's not actually what this is. It doesn't feel like.
No, it feels like they
are almost like reporting to him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're like, hey, yeah, the castle's ours.
We got it.
And you're one of us. We're one of you, you're one of us. And then he just tells them to tell everyone else that the king is dead. And they're like, and should we also tell them who the new king is?
Yeah. And
this puts Jaime in a really... Like, I don't understand why they are asking Jaime for their next orders.
I mean, he's standing over the dead king right next to the throne. I feel like there's a suggestion of a plan that isn't actually in his head, but they're probably, like, positioning themselves that if he wants to take some shit, we better be on his good side, Like,
it's almost like, are they thinking, like, they're like, hey, are we also supposed to tell him you the new king? Which is... And I know that this has happened from the show. I remember there was a bit about, because like in this chapter it's mentioned that Ned Stark walks in a second. I knew that from the show that Ned walks in and sees Jaime there over the king, because there was this sort of like moment that maybe Ned could have taken it all for himself, right? So I understand that is a thing, but it's just wild to me that there is like this short window where just somebody could have been like, yeah, I'm king now.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that that's how this shit works. It's just like, I happen to get to the room first. Mm-hmm. It's like a game of tag or something.
A little bit, right? A little bit. So he sits on the throne, puts his sword across his knees, and is just like, I guess we'll see who walks in next, and we'll see who decides to show up and announce that they are king. And the next person that walks in is Ned Stark, and we were reminded that Jaime feels like he had no right to judge him either, because that was one of the things Ned always, was sure to bring up. Mm-hmm. Then I think his dream sort of ends there. It just says that the dead king burning, gowned in swirling green flames, and he danced around him with a golden sword, but everyone that he struck down, 2 more rose. And then she's waking him up the next morning by kicking him in the ribs. Yeah. Yeah,
it's an interesting thing, too, because, like, it just shows the differences in ethics that people have, because he's telling Brienne that he was crazy, he was cruel, he was burning people alive and making a show of it. He was like, for fun. It was just like a fucking entertainment. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, yeah, but you took an oath, though.
Right.
So for her, it's about the oath. And for him, it's about the guy was like a lunatic who was harming people and wanted to harm a lot more.
Yeah.
And that is like, obviously, we've talked about me and promises. And the fact that, for me, promises don't make any sense. Because you make promises to people when you maybe don't know the full circumstances of what you're about to, like, be stepping into. Or what lies in the future that is going to completely change the context of a thing that you promised. Or a person that will ask you to do something because they mean well in the moment. But if they knew what the changes were, they would not want you to uphold that promise.
Right.
Various things like that. And I just take a much more, like, Jaime Lannister kind of view of, like, Yeah, my, like, wanting to support a person who does the right thing and isn't a monster is a lot more important to me than keeping an oath for the sake of keeping an oath. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, Brienne just does not really understand or seem to care about that aspect of it.
At this point, it definitely doesn't seem like there's a lot of gray area that Brienne is comfortable in.
Yeah.
And that could be, I mean, for like all kinds of different reasons. But yeah, it is clear that she needs to hold on to very rigid ideals of what is right and what is wrong. Almost like she doesn't trust her internal moral compass. You know, that you need these external factors to hold you to account and make sure that you behave in the honorable way or whatever.
Yeah.
And there just doesn't seem to be any room for any kind of nuance in there, you know. And like, I feel like this, like, I remember on the show, and I think it's in the books, but I can't remember, but one of the things that Jaime knows is that he is, like, setting up to, like, burn the entire city.
Right.
Like, right? He's willing to burn the whole entire city rather than, like, lose this war and be dragged off the throne. So the threat at the time that Jaime kills him, it's not just even that, you know, oh, he's terrible and oh, he's crazy, but it is like stopping a madman. And I don't know if that's exactly like true in the book or not, whether he was planning on burning this whole fucking bitch down to the ground. But it really, in my opinion, it makes a huge difference in what Jaime has done. And she just is not here for it at all. Not at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
So,
it's
yeah.
funny, too, that someone who has been affected by these very rigid rules around gender in this world, you know.
I was thinking that, too. Yeah.
But, you know, you think she would be somebody that would be much more interested in what is right because it's right, not what is right because it's the rule or it's their oath or whatever, you know.
Agreed, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's because she has had so much trouble getting anybody to take her seriously that really strictly adhering to the rules of the
almost
other
like
side is proving something.
Overcompensating.
Yeah, you know? Because, yeah, I could see that. Like, you have to prove to everybody that you are, if not one of them, at least not going to cause trouble around what's expected of you in that arena, you know?
Yeah. And that she's constantly proving that she can do whatever they do just as well, if not better. And part of that just as well, if not better, is adhering to these very, very strict kind of interpretations of what it means to be a knight, you know?
Yeah.
Just like her performance of knighthood is so extreme. It's more, she's more of a knight than pretty much any of the other knights that we've met.
True.
That have lasted for more than like a couple pages.
Yep.
You know, she is like the knight that Sansa thinks all knights are like.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yep. She has a lot of the same qualities as Sansa in some ways, like the same sort of innocence around certain things. She's smarter and savvier about the realities of the world in some senses, but her absolutism feels very Sansa-ish. But so that's the end of the chapters. He dreams about people made out of green flame and trying to cut them down, and they just keep popping up, and then she kicks him awake, and they get on their horses and head back out again. So that is chapter 11. All right, so is there anything else you want to mention before I wrap this one up? Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
I'm going to say hi to new patrons. I also want to mention, we said this on the Dresden Files episode, but I want to make the announcement here as well, that Dresden Files is going to be wrapping soon. Not completely, but we're going to be finishing up Battleground, which is the last released book. In September is the timetable that it looks like. And Rashawn and I have decided that we are going to cover Ted Lasso
Yay!
After we are done with...
I'm so excited. I started watching it last night. Just
she
talking
says
about
but
it.
she's watched it 12 times, so... And literally...
Just talking about it yesterday and last night, I was like, oh, I should watch me some Ted Lasso. And bitch, I laughed like I had seen it before. It's so good.
Yeah, I've already gotten in touch with Sydney to commission them to do me the logo for it and everything. So yeah, that's going to be coming later this year. And because the final season will have dropped already, we will be able to cover it in one shot without any pausing, which is really nice. We've pretty much agreed that we are not going to cover the next season of Westworld. If there's like tons of buzz and it sounds like it's really turned a corner and become amazing again, maybe, but I'm not committing to anything.
Yeah. I'm definitely down to watch it, but it just didn't feel like something I wanted to like dedicate, and commit to podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then possibly on the table after Ted Lasso is Percy Jackson. Not committing to that either, but it has been asked for a lot. So kind of just putting that on my maybe list. And amongst other things that I'm not sharing at the moment, but thinking about to myself. But yeah, just wanted to keep you guys all abreast of what is being decided and has been decided already. All right, so... Everybody get ready for the air horn because I am about to greet new patrons! This week we have Nick Martin and John Martinez. Tell me something. Can you hear their names over the air horn?
I was just about to tell you that like you cannot hear their names really with the air horn. Okay. I think you need to do like a bookend kind of situation.
Okay, so Nick Martin.
There you go.
John Martinez.
There you go.
All right, we'll do that from now on. I gotta, guys, this is a work in progress. I gotta work out some things. Gotta experiment a little bit. So
that guy telling you to workshop Toodaloo will never not be funny. Oh my God, that was like I don't even know how many years ago, but I cannot workshop. It will never not be funny.
Look, people really have they have a generous idea of what I do sometimes. Give me a lot more credit for pre-planning and, it's not really, it's the ideal that I would like to be, but it is not in practice who I am. But anyway, all right, guys, thank you again all so much for listening. We love you very much. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walter Frey, Melisandre, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.